So, gamification. So that's the first sort of the easy or the lower end of game learning. So one example we did for CocaCola, that was a cumulative points display in the top right corner, which then carried on through. And so at the end, the people who got the highest amount of hearts in their module, that was totaled up, and for each region, that was then put into a leaderboard. So there's a national, international leaderboard, and each sort of region competed against each other. So it brought on this whole co-op play and the fact you're on a team rather than just working individually in your e-learning. That helped to really sort of push people's involvement in the courses and made the completions of the courses happen a lot quicker. People much more eager to get involved. There was an example on the Adapt showcase, which is called Are You Cyber Safe? We did just as a dummy example of that, which shows the scoring points in action. Also things like unlocking levels and badges. Obviously we have Trickle already as part of Adapt. So you could have it so there's certain conditionals as to what you unlock and don't unlock. You could add, we're currently working on this, it's not anything we've passed to the community yet because you haven't completely finished it, but creating timers for assessments, for example. So you have an article which is an assessment and you have a certain amount of time to do that. And then that adds a little bit of jeopardy. Perhaps there could be another ones where you have a question and using the confidence slider say how much you're confident enough you can answer this correct or incorrect. Maybe have a small points wager you could put on it. All these sort of ways of gamifying existing components. And also things like moving into much more engaging interactions, so using CSS animations or drag and drop, things that currently aren't inside the Adapt framework, but obviously you can add in with using JavaScript. So basically creating things a bit less static, so it makes it have a bit more juice, as I like to call it in the game industry. This is the example I mentioned. So this is Are You Cyber Safe? So as you go through, one of the questions you get, well done, strong password, for example, is you get +1 shield. So up in the top corner here, you get an accumulative score as you run through it. At the end, that unlocks a level of, say, you've mastered it, and so you get a, I think it was a cyber commander or something, was the top level. So just like playing into those sort of traditional little game quirks and bits of game thinking. Next version is games-based learning, so slightly more involved. Now in this one, as I mentioned, you can create custom components, and then basically the main thing that's essential is that it all works seamlessly with the rest of your Adapt module. In this example, I don't know if you've seen, this is also on the showcase. We did a course for the PFRA, which I'll talk to about in a minute, where we used an external library with a JavaScript-based games engine, created our own component, which you can then put inside our Adapt, and then carry on as any other component, so it has the same completion status, works in the same way on the page level progress, for example. And that by using that, basically you create a real live game inside your Adapt module. So this is an example. Obviously, with gaming, handheld gaming is huge, mobile gaming is massive, and as we're trying to attract a much more cross-platform audience, why not tailor to the things that they actually currently do and currently love? So these are examples of games we've built using the Phaser engine, which can all be put straight into Adapt. So if you're wondering, I mentioned Phaser. This is the platform we use. There are other, as I often have to say on the radio, there are other JavaScript games libraries available, but I personally prefer Phaser, and this plays really nicely with Adapt. And then on from there, the simulation, obviously that's a bit more involved and engaged. So if you imagine the same sort of environmental point of view video, and then at the end of it you're asked to, what would you do next, sort of things, so for work on things like managerial skills, much more soft interpersonal skills, then that's a very powerful way of doing it. So in this case study, we basically were asked to create an onboarding package, a module for people who are joining the PFRA, which is the Professional Fundraisers Association. Now, at that time there was a big reputational crisis, a lot of people weren't following the rules, their induction program wasn't working. We created this standard Adapt module, but inside it were also these game components, which they went through, and at the end of it, it was tracked as normal on SCORM. And the first one was like the main one they kept breaking was where to stand when they're canvassing in public. So we created this whole little demo of what 3 meters is, how where you should and shouldn't stand in a public space, and then also who you can and can't approach, which are a lot of the things which were causing most of their complaints and most of the fines in the PFRA. And then the final one was the door challenge, is about where to go, which doors to knock on and you shouldn't approach. So in all, we had to make quite a lot happen in a very short and succinct way. So this is the actual Adapt module. Straightforward Adapt. So we have the game is one of them. There's a feedback following that one. So it's all standardly within your normal Adapt module. So the first one's a narrative. So I'm not saying I would just skip through the content, because obviously I wouldn't do that, but I would have read this if I was actually doing the course. And now go straight to onto our game. So we start our game. This is built within Phase, as I said, and it just sits within our adapt game. Now, if this was on a mobile, it would prompt me to turn my mobile landscape, and then just carry on playing the game as usual. So it's quite a seamless experience. So here's our fundraiser. So the first one was the 3 metre rule. So it seems quite daft, but a lot of people had no idea what 3 metres were. They would stand right next to people or next to doorways, etc. So our first one is a little, really quick interaction. How far is 3 metres? Cheekily, I know that exactly 2 bikes, there's 3 metres. So now I know what 3 metres is, and it gives me a few examples of why that is. And later on it will tell me where to find that in the handbook about the 3 metre rule. Right, okay, cash point, no way. Right, cafe, I'm not standing near this thing. I can see right at the other end there is a pelican crossing. So I'm going to stand right, this feels a bit more right. Finally, I'm getting the hang of it now. So really quickly, in less than 2 minutes of gameplay, I figured out where I should and shouldn't stand in the street, the sort of things that I should be looking out to avoid. And this is all still within my adapt module. If you want to look at this game, it is on the adapt showcase. So just to summarise, organisations all over the world are basically seeing these real world benefits. As we said in that earlier slide, there's a lot of stats showing that people are being much more retentive, much more engaged, and they're basically taking on board the information. There's much more retention, as I mentioned. So and games can be suitable for many topics. I mean, obviously they're not just for fun. There are serious games which you can look at for real world situations and put into it. Just using those little bits of game thinking to try and enrich them and basically pull some emotional pulls to get people involved more. And also within adapt, we can use the existing framework, and just by adding that game thinking to our future adapt projects, we can add and amplify the reaction of our users. And as I mentioned in number 4 there, games don't need to be expensive. You don't have to try and make Grand Theft Auto or Call of Duty or anything like that. You just by adding a few extra elements, just a few bells and whistles, you really can improve the engagement of your learners. And that's all I've got time for. So thank you very much for your time. And